Hello again and welcome to our continuing discussion on color management. Not only can images have a color space, a color profile assigned to them, the Adobe workspace can also have a color space assigned to it. To find that ability to do so, we come up here again to Edit, click on it, roll all the way down here to Color Settings, click on Color Settings, and then here is where we assign the workspace profile. We can click on this tab here and put in just general North American Pre-Press, North American Web Internet profiles. And when we change this around, notice that these working spaces here change. So we're going to go back to Pre-Press. This changed. Typically, I like to have North American Pre-Press 2 selected, and then notice we have the little drop down arrows here. I open up the RGB and then select Pro Photo because usually I'm creating master files. Down here we have color management policies, and this is basically instructions how you want Photoshop to behave on certain occasions. For example, reserve embedded profiles. These are the defaults that you want to run with, but again, you could always have maybe them convert the image to the working RGB. Again, our working RGB is being selected by us. Our working color spaces are being selected by us right here, and we can then select what we want to happen with the images as they come in to the working space. Again, preserve embedded makes sense to me. When profiles are mismatched, for example, the working space, let's say, is set to Pro Photo, and an image with Adobe 98 is trying to open into this Pro Photo working space, we can have these checkboxes on here to ask when opening, ask when pasting. And if there's a missing profile, ask when opening, hey, if there's a missing profile, what would you like us to do? And we'll show you that dialog box here in a minute. So here's where you set up the color space that you want Photoshop to work in. So we will select OK here. And now let's go over to Bridge and just talk about something else over here that we haven't talked about yet, and that is on these filters we can come all the way down here to the color profile, click on the little right arrow, and now we can see there's a variety of options going on with our color spaces of our images. Untagged, well, that would be our raw files, because raw files do not have color profiles associated with them. Adobe 1998, these would have been some of the in-camera JPEGs that I created. Pro Photo, let's show you the Pro Photo. These would be a couple of the images that have the Pro Photo color space associated with them. Well, right now we know that our working space for the Photoshop is Pro Photo. So let's select an image that is different than Pro Photo. So we're going to select it here as an Adobe RGB 1998. It's a JPEG, so let's double click the thumbnail to bring it into Photoshop. And let's see what happens. The document has an embedded color profile that does not match the current RGB working space. It shows us right here what the embedded working space is, the embedded color profile is, and it is the Adobe RGB 1998, and we are working in the Pro Photo. So Photoshop is wanting to work with images in the Pro Photo RGB. This is never an option down here at the bottom, so really we have two choices. We can convert the document's colors to the working space, and we can do that if we wanted to, or we can use the embedded profile instead of the working space. It's kind of an alert here. Hey, don't forget, you're working in the Pro Photo space. You're doing that for a reason. You're about to bring an image without the Pro Photo space embedded in here. We can work on it and do everything fine. There's no problems. But If you're thinking it's a ProPhoto color space, it's not. Here's your alert for that. Since we can't add colors, we'll just go ahead and use the embedded profile. And we can bring it in. Now, what we also can see here is that right up here there's another little clue. And because we have a profile mismatch, there's a little asterisk right next to the 8. Okay, you can see that now. Over here, this image here is in the ProPhoto color space, so there is no asterisk. But we do have this little alert, hey, there's a profile mismatch. Your working color space is different than the color profile of the image. Not a problem. We can proceed forward and work if we want to, but it is just letting us know. So how might we apply this from a practical standpoint? If we go ahead and close this image out, let's go up here and change our working space to, we're going to prepare images for the internet. So let's choose the general settings here, North American Web Internet. Our RGB is now the sRGB color space. So we're going to click OK. Let's reselect that image to bring into Photoshop. We know that image has a profile of Adobe RGB 1998. We're preparing images for the internet. Let's go ahead and have it convert the documents to the working space. So let's go ahead and click OK here. And now there is not a profile mismatch. We can resize this and then save it off as a file for the internet, and it's going to be in the right working space, or pardon me, it'll be in the right color space for viewing on digital devices, the internet, emailing. Notice now that we've changed the working space, that this image back here now has an asterisk because it is no longer matching the working space. The color profile of the image no longer matches the working space that Adobe Photoshop is in. All right, so there we go. That's the end of our color management discussion. We now know that images have color profiles that can be a variety of different working color spaces, and that Photoshop itself can select a color profile to work in.